see what two politicians, two currents, are doing in that oil sector. Both their performances are disgraceful, especially as it relates to the IMS market audit, which revealed Guyana in not wanting to take blame and resign. Imagine neither of them wanting to be accountable for this debacle. In this country, it is the big fish which must be fried. Big fishes who wanted to wean Guyana out of $107 million. The AFC, and here this fiasco by these two politicians, demands the laying of the Petroleum Commission Bill in the next October session of Parliament to see the establishment of independent, qualified, professional persons to manage the activities of the oil and gas sector. This the PDP government had promised would happen soonest. Well, there is already the 2017 bill, which was sent to the Special Select Committee in the last Parliament. A good start can be the immediate revival of that bill to insulate the stupid and corrupt politics played out by the PDP politicians in this sector. Both barracks will see less embarrassment to themselves and the country when they stop meddling with the affairs they know nothing about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cameron. And if I could then go to Dr. Vince Adams.
Thanks.
Please go ahead.
Thanks, Kathy, and welcome to the media. My statement is going to be on Chief Justice George's decision on the flaring. The Honorable Chief Justice ruling on this unlimited flaring infliction upon Guyana by Exxon and government is no doubt gravely puzzling and a travesty of justice against the people of Guyana. Exxon once again has been given the green light to ruthlessly exploit our God-given wealth at the unmerciful expense of the health, safety, environment, and well-being of our people and future generations. I'm sure I speak for most in saying that I'm always very respectful of the judiciary and its decisions, but not to the extent when such consequential decisions as this one clearly defies science, logic, and common sense. I could go on all day about the flaws in the Honorable Judge's decision, but limited by time to do so. So we'll address just a few of the highly questionable basis of the judge's decision. One, this case is about the litigants asking the court to stop the indiscriminate, dangerous flaring of unlimited quantities of toxic produced gases into the atmosphere by adjudicating that the government's modification of the EPA permit to allow for such egregious flaring is illegal. The coalition's permit, guided by the environmental impact assessment and international standards, enshrine that all produced gas must be reinjected and so prohibited from being flared except for emergency, maintenance, and startup. Exxon fully understood this and committed it from day one, but was caught in a bind when their equipment didn't work, and so conspired with the PPC, with the current government, to get out of this bind by changing the rules which they couldn't do under the coalition. Upon initial startup under the coalition, when the equipment failed, they begged for 30 days and then 60 days, and then was shut down to make sure that they wouldn't then flare until it was fixed. After the coalition left government, the EPA added a clause to allow unlimited flaring when the equipment is not working And this is what the judge has gone along with just a paltry fee that is less than 5% of what Exxon makes by not cutting back production to stop the flaring. This is absolutely senseless and injudicious. This is like having sand trucks owners paying a small fee to drive around without brakes, lights, proper tires, etc., endangering the public. In her own words, the judge seems to have believed everything proffered by Exxon as facts, in quote, and everything proffered by the litigants as opinions. The judge claimed that evidence proffered by the litigants was confusingly expressed, in quote, and ultimately difficult to understand, in quote. I don't think anyone with an unbiased mind upon reading the evidence provided by the litigants would ever arrive at that conclusion. The evidence proffered by attorney Melinda Janke on behalf of the litigants is crystal clear, and no one else on this planet could have been better positioned to deliver that evidence than Melinda Janke, since she was a key author of the EPF and hence knows the intent of the land better than anyone. Besides, Ms. Janke is an internationally accomplished attorney, so to suggest that she is incapable of explaining herself clearly on a subject which she knows as good as anyone is too hard to swallow. Why have all the companies, including Exxon, committed to cut back on if they've not accepted that it's harmful? The judge believed that Mr. Rutledge when he says that the fee is a disincentive, and doubts the litigants when they say that it is an incentive to flare, though there is numerical evidence to support their argument. How could it be a disincentive when the fee is only about 3% of what they would make by flaring? The judge clearly shows her total lack of knowledge of what polluter pays principle means, and the wording of the EPA Act, which was explained by Ms. Janke, the expert on the EPA. She erroneously believes that the polluter pay principle is the same as pay to pollute. The polluter pay principle is for cleanup after the fact and not to pay for pollution while you operate. If that was the case, that would be flying in the face of fundamental principle of environmental protection to pay to pollute. And you wouldn't need an EPA. All you need to do is put a price on pollution and let everybody pollute as much as they can afford to pay. It doesn't make any sense. As a matter of fact, the pay to pollute principle was established in the United States to clean up sites that were abandoned. It wasn't for operation, it was sites that were abandoned. So that was just a decision. But I want to bring to your attention very briefly something that I discovered last night while I was reading this case and going over some past history. I came across, I discovered that the EPA, of course, this here is a modification to this permit, but the EPA went ahead and modified the Payara permit in secret without notifying the public. It was dated, the modified Payara permit is dated the 6/30/2023, just a few months ago. Unless the media had seen a notification, I have not. But here are the key points: that the coalition, when I was there, before the coalition left office, we were the ones who prepared the Payara permit just a few weeks before, and it was published as is. And then I've been talking public about the standard that Payara permit set. So what they've done now is gone back secretly and removed some key elements of that permit that was protected, some key guardrails. For example, the water dumping. The Payara permit stopped the water dumping. In addition to that, if you recall, Mr. Judicial has been going around bragging that about the capping stop that is now coming out of Guyana. The Payara permit under the coalition established 5 days. It says 5 days for that capping stop to get the site to stop any blowout of the well. They have now made, and then They have now made that into 9 days. In that permit, we challenge them to also show us a feasibility study to make it 3 days. They have tripled that now to 9 days in the changes. They've also increased the flaring. In the Payara permit, we gave them 48 hours to flare upon startup, which is the US standard. They've increased that to 60 days, but it doesn't matter because they can go beyond 60 days as long as they pay this poultry fee. So I challenge the media to go out and look into this as to why this Payara permit was modified without a notification to the public and why these major changes were made. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Ventana. And I'd like to ask my colleague, Member of Parliament David Paxton, to share his comments on the current GPL situation.
Thank you, Kathy, for that. Members of the media. To discuss GPL was taking extremely long. So I have prepared a brief summation of where we are. The line for change is noted the daily power outages are plaguing the entire country. Power outages are not limited to the BPIS, the Arab system only, but also extreme cold and the function of batteries. Note has been taken for excuses offered by the government, namely the corrective bill, as well as the exclusion of some commercial customers on the for daily power. We reject these excuses in full. Since the status of our power sector is entirely due to the management of the fee. And I'd like to give you a brief background, but to just ensure that for context, I am reading from, I don't know if you can see, GPL Ministerial Report 2050-2020. This is available, it's been on my webpage since 2020 when it started, when we highlighted since 2020 and 2021 that the route in which GPL are going is to end up right there. Of course, the government in the use of the blitz did not pay any heed. Now, after we are in this quagmire, we seek to blame the coalition. But here's the background of GPL from 2015. In 2015, they installed capacity, the available capacity of GPL was 124 megawatts. In 2020, June to May 2020, of course, it all August, the installed capacity GPL was 165 megawatts. Technical and commercial losses in 2015, 9.2%. Technical commercial losses, we lose, at that time, we lose so almost 30% of what we can check or efficiency in the system. By 2020, June to May, it was down to 24%. The peak demand in 2015 was 110 megawatts. The peak demand in 2020, when we did it all, we had 40 megawatts in reserve when we left the reserve. In 2015, the interruption duration index, that is the summation in hours, all the interruptions in GPL, not only Georgetown, but when you had Lebanon, Bartica, everything like that. That total is 97 hours for 20. When we divided off, we reduced that to 20 hours. It is now the 104 hours actually we only have to have here. Expenditure, we've been seeing a lot of things, claims and outright lies by the Vice President and unfortunately Vice President and parted by uninformed people. From 2015, this is May to December, GPL expended on capital 2018, 3.5 billion. 2019, 2.1 billion. And between January and May of 2020, 6.2 billion. And I want to make this business GPL during plans, those things like that, all the rules. In addition to that, government of Guyana also provided budgetary support to GPL. May to December, $2 billion. 2016, 2015, 2016, 3.3 billion. 2017, 3.4 billion. 2018, 2.9 billion. 2019, 4.3 billion. 2020, January to May in 2020, 10 billion. And I'm just saying this to the person that whenever you heard it by President Peter, nothing is spent, nothing is done, you can quote these numbers. Maintenance, they've also made a claim that there's no maintenance done right. This is what we give you as expenditure. 2015, May, December, 2 billion. 2016, 2.2. 2017, 3. 2018, 3.5. 2019, 3.4. And of course, 2020, January to May, 1.2 billion. I've already indicated publicly on the sets that you're into 63 megawatts. That's how we were able to move from 134 installed to 106 surviving. And then there's a claim, and I saw an excellent letter by the former GPL chairman, which I directly president, which says that we have a plan and we must do that in 2020, for the last year and August, we installed 46.6 megawatts. To keep up pace, GPL was installed 55.2 megawatts in 2020. And then, of course, from 2020 to 2024, we had this data of 128 megawatts. And this was all on trade. The sets that we procured for 46.6 were what we call modular sets. They were recommended by an IT study, and these were dual fuel sets. What meant that they modular came in at 55 units. And what it meant is that whenever the gas shore project was finally onshore, we would just simply transition these sets to natural gas. Right now, it's installed by the PPP has installed not a single kilowatt of power since the beginning. And they're now buying reconditioned sets. I heard the Vice President saying they're now buying reconditioned containerized high-speed sets. GPL moved away from buying these sets because they're inefficient. The costly mechanism, they're high to maintain it, and extremely costly. So, ladies and gentlemen, I could answer the question, I could go on for quite a while, but that's what to put that on record, that without a proper plan, we are in that 30 megawatts stuff happening with the buying will not do much for us. They're coming in January, we will not do much. Every budget speech I bemoan the fact that GPL is not like that. But of course, easy lessons are good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member of Parliament David Patterson and Executive Member of the AFC. Our final statement I will read, and it goes as follows. AFC issues caution against interference in teacher negotiations. We warned before about the approach of the People's Progressive Party, PPP, of imposing its will or using its political might to interfere in the activities of agencies and the operations of legitimate functioning national organizations. Yet again, we have found it necessary to issue another caution to the regime in its latest approach to bypass the established teachers' bargaining mechanism to meddle in the wages and salaries negotiations. The meeting between President Ali and the selected few is wrong and counterproductive. While we support efforts to bring the current negotiations to a speedy resolution, we believe that these efforts should remain within the negotiating nation's children, sometimes additional out-of-pocket expenses. Our teachers have demonstrated courage and sacrifice throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, and their continuous toil with inadequate equipment and resources is noted. Therefore, today our teachers should be rewarded from the proceeds of our natural inheritance. The government should also be mindful of the precedent it creates in showing favoritism and contempt for others. The AFC, in their efforts to secure a decent wage, salaries, and other compensation from the government, we therefore urge the government to honor its promise to the teachers with a reasonable package settlement. Thank you. That brings us to the end of our presentation. And at this point in time, I'd like to turn the press conference over to members of the media and any questions they may have on the presentations or any other issues. Please, as is customary, identify yourself and the organization that you represent. The raise hand function works well to ensure efficiency. Thank you very much. Questions? Thank you, Anna. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon. Sorry I couldn't make it in person. This question is for Mr. Patterson. Sir, you gave some details about expenditure on GPL and all of that. But earlier this week, I saw a statement by a government official which said that when the coalition was in office, it left owing GPL a tremendous sum of money. I can't remember the figures. Yeah. I mean, was there an indebtedness?
Listen, there has been traditionally the large debt. I think it's a policy. The larger portion that is owed GPL is GWI, water, and then it comes along the municipalities, George, Dublin, they're not in the George, connected with. They owe GPL tremendous amount. When it took over $10 billion, in 2015 it was $10 billion. I don't know what it went up to because of the expansion in GWI. I think the indebtedness went up to $30 billion. But I want to tell you, Adam, that didn't stop GPL, because GPL had an article that we shared. GPL started to cut out the corruption, and by the end of 2016, GPL had a big surplus. So while there's the policy, and I don't think the ones that neither administration have ever addressed it in the sense of increasing the subsidy to GWI so that they can pay their bills, that's the biggest step. So that never happened for GPL also. Because it was inherited, $10 billion, and continue to increase as we expand. And I'm sure right now we later with the amount of the claim, the amount of work they do. But I have in front of me the audit budget and the audit figure the expenses for GPL revenue and expenses for the year. And every year under the coalition, GPL has a surplus after revenues and expenditure. Every year they also do this, they also funded the capital for this expenditure. So that is just a red area put up there to make people think about GPL. So.
Thank you.
A follow-up, if nobody's ready, a follow-up. There is talk about taking consumers off the grid for a certain period. Is that legal? That's one part of the question. And the other part I want to ask has to do with this question of the coalition did nothing for GPL and allowed it to run down during the period it was in office. Is that a legitimate, well, not the state, not legitimate, but is that an accurate statement?
Let me address it. The second one first. That's an absolute lie. I just sat down and detailed that. I think the whole public knows that, but I think that the person is saying that bare-faced. The bare-faced liars, we know I could detail the amount of money. The GPL only existed because it invested in the the PPP has done nothing. They've taken all the money, all our money, thrown it over the gas show project. They've left GPL to flutter and on their own. And thereafter, Parajack, they own and the best project. Same as when they wanted a minor ball, they would link card of a minor ball, no matter what the public said, no matter the expert said. They just simply said, no, this is what we're going to do, and they forgot them. That's exactly what it's trying to do. If you read the Raw Lewis, who's the chairman from Council, because the chairman from 1920, and I must say that board is very happy with the persons. So people were working. They would not take Mr. Lucas word as anybody in the board. Yes, they would Robert Badal, and Reggie Bagwell saying, they were several of them, Kumal Ragnar, who's going to be down this by friends, not any of them on Brazil, what we say. So absolutely, because nothing like the confidence, they're still exposed, showing very, very vulnerable parts of the body. So they're trying out simply to cover it up. But the world that they normally do, over the eyes of the public and try to blame someone. So Adam, you can ask them when simple question next time you ask the press conference, anyone of these questions. When is the last generator reported by GPL? And they'll have to tell you 2019, 2020, other than these was the country. You can ask them, and these are documented facts. And then secondly, I can't tell you whether legality or not of the I would think person may have a legal case if it's your choice. But it's a short-sighted response. In claiming why they're taking persons off, they're saying that the power is subsidized, whereby cheaper to be on the list, and primary reason they're using, I don't dispute at all. They said there's no excise duty, which is right, but they haven't increased tariffs, which is right, but they're claiming that they're eating the cost for any excess. Instead of taking people off the grid, you could now provide them with the exact same subsidy GPL is getting that you're eating, so that they could get the same cost of GPL is getting the same subsidy and let them sell it. Maybe you want to have a solution if you put things like that in place, as opposed to this punitive action. But I tell you what, Adam, since this year, I got a message from two of these big consumers who feel that this is targeted towards them. I would call their name President, who said that they have fallen out with the government. And this, what they're doing is direct targeted to them. That's their impression. So you can check on them.
Thank you very much, David Patterson. We have two questions that have come in virtually from Davina at Hydro News. And so I will ask the two questions on her behalf. The first one, how does the AFC view the dysfunctional natural resources website, where the data is not being presented timely and is absent in some instances? I know this is something we have discussed before, but David, would you like to?
Well, when the PPP took over, they promised to be open and transparent on the dealings of the natural gas and the oil and gas sector. We've seen that that's not. they started off by varying the production of the production capacity. And then when pressed, they said they would provide real-time monitoring of it. Obviously, they're not doing that. And obviously, they have some the high, obviously, and there's no way the public could verify the information you have on this site. But it's just a typical on one, they talk on one side of the world, they're being false and good problem. But in reality, we are worse off than we were back in 10, 15 years. The people, the people, 50 people are fully back. I mean, lack of information, public lies, bare face, public lies in a simple private school, Google student that unravel these lies. They still make it a very strange face. So we are very, very skeptical of anything they say or do.
Let me add quickly here. Let us not forget that in the first place, even David said they had promised to be transparent and put the information out there. They were pressured. They were pressured, first of all, even having that website with the data. And then when the website appears, it's not, for example, even with the flaring, they put on that website, whenever they put data, they put up the production rate of oil, etc., because that's something that they are obviously proud of. But there's no data on gas, such as flaring. I checked the site, the last set of data on gas was since May. Folks, here, the data comes out on a daily basis. When I was at the EPA, I requested that data. It comes out on a computer printout. You get that data every single day. Why can't that data be posted and posted instantly? You should be able to go on that day because everything is connected electronically. It comes out on a printout. It's machines that are and electronic equipment that are reading what's being read out on the meters. It's there every single day, every single second of the day. So why are they holding on? What do they have to hide? It's very troubling. That they're not being transparent, and that's the mantra of how they operate. I just give you an example of them changing that fire bit, which is very dangerous. They changed some element there that the coalition had enough. They changed it without, doing the normal thing of notifying the public that these things have been changed.
And I just wish to set another example. What they did with the IHS market audit.
Yes.
It was a tremendously long time, and only when Starbuck News and then some others had the document and shared it around. And then even so, the discussions in relation to the $14 million US and what happened with GRA and so on were all in very confused information distribution. And so you couldn't get, they wanted to hide the wickedness that they were doing. And that, I must say, is that if you do not want, corruption begins with non-transparency.
They're even hiding it from their own EPA staff. They're open. This is a fact. I've said this over and over. It is a fact that they have taken all of Exxon's files out of the general filing room, where all of the other developers have their filing system. In that filing room, by the way, that was put in place by the coalition that was never existed before. They've taken all of Exxon's files and they've locked it up in the executive director's office. That's a fact. What are they hiding? Which means that they're even hiding it from even their own EPA staff.
Exactly.
So it's a culture.
Ricky Leonard Ramsey, who is also a member of Parliament for the AFC, also wants to share his comments.
Yeah, I want to chime in with David and the statement he made in GPL. In response to some of the public outcry that they're having with very prominent people in government, they were posting, I don't know if you see the report, David, they were posting on their economics that they were spending $1 billion part of that money with less blackout. And that is not something they should post about. They have enough money. What I've learned is those containers thing is talking about how they bring it from Turkey, which is not good condition and compatible to deal with our
corruption flags.
So I want to point it out, and they always bring it back to some fast project. And we all know that the IDB really totally against that project, and it was not feasible. I just breaking here. Energy, economics, and financial. Several that deals with energy. I speak I just want to see guys that we can have enough and another and this is what worries me here because this kind of content and all well, now
First, if you go to the LCDS, before the LCDS, but or whatever it is, they claim that by 2025, we will need 400, you can go back 450 megawatts. They said that just to add up the gas, the energy, and the possible might therefore, which is 300 megawatts. Right? That was claimed by them. Now, they have now claimed that the 300 megawatts would be more than enough to look after the whatever. So much more that we have to shut off all the generators here. And I heard the vice president the same question you asked him. What's wrong with having vectors? Here is what's wrong, and that's what the report is saying. The electricity is not something you can store, not like water or oil or fuel. Electricity is take-out. So when you turn on the 300 megawatts of power, GPL has to pay for all 300 megawatts, even though the demand here as we stand here now, the 182 megawatts, you have to pay for all 300 megawatts. That's not true. And we telling that, and that is exact same comment that I had about the mile of oil, is that that is why they have to be considered because GPL now, then and now cannot afford to pay 300 megawatts when they only get it. We afford to be only using 180, 250, 200. You can only bill it for 200, but you still have to pay for the extra 100 megawatts. So that is why the debt ceiling will be the debt for the mile of oil by the refuse because it's not economically feasible. Come with a plan that's not feasible. Exact same scenario is playing out here. You will have access power. There's nothing wrong with that. However, you have to pay for it. So because it's not a good thing you tell these plants work hard. Generators don't work hard. Generators are like equipment when you turn them off, they pump out the max. How much you use, but they've always done that. They've used, and I've said it before, we, the coalition, did a study in collaboration with the IDB in 2016, and then we updated it in 2018, right? Of course, when you buy up in 2018, because that is going from double gas, you're talking about expansion, those things like that. They've never done. And it's our power generation plan, the only one there. If you have never done an in-depth study to determine what our energy demands are. And for us to arrive at it, and let me tell you, which are absolutely on target now. I said that before, our energy forecast is absolutely on target now. Says this. But to get that energy demand, we met with forestry. Yeah, what are your plans for the next 10 years? Whether they have nothing to bauxite, are you going to do the plant? They said, no, bauxite. We met with all the whether they are hotels, the industry, the private sector, every industry in Canada that may potentially be a large consumer of power. That's why we did the best with them updated the changing dynamic. So they're going to put GPL, just as the report said, they will put GPL in therapy, because they would not be able to generate the monthly revenues versus what they have. And everyone knows that. They've revised the forecast numbers. Practically said that they made a mistake, and that normally, I don't know where it's coming from, that energy demands go hand in hand with the GDP rise. So they had basic 150, whatever percent GDP. Energy demand doesn't grow like that. Our plan is quite simple and this is stability, in that we progressively get out in a systematic way, in a tactical bill. We're using natural gas because of what we can regulate the money as opposed to the public. Therefore, if you needed a less number, we said 30. We want to take 30 from the SPSO, and then we take 20. But as we increase, we can step up with the gas coming from the SPSO. These guys, like Mickey said, like Kamal said, they just go without anything. All in, no studies, have a few talking parrots and bobby heads, repeated. What television shows, take personal attacks on the critics, volume obstructionism and things like that with no facts or data. Then again, they can't do this social media people talk, and then somehow the other try to pass it off with some like.
So Davina, let me quickly add a little bit to what David said here. It's the fundamental aspect of this was that as called for in the contract, in the agreement, it says that there must be a feasibility study for any utilization of that gas. When the question had been raised with the vice president, he said this is a no-brainer, and just brushed to the side and went along. Like David said, all of these issues and questions would have been answered in a feasibility study. So we wouldn't have been around questioning numbers. It would have been addressed in the feasibility study. It was not done in accordance with the agreement, with the petroleum agreement. And the vice president goes around talking about sanctity of the contract. Well, here's a very key item in the element in that contract that was not being followed as far as this sanctity is concerned. So it comes down to they are not following what's in that agreement, even though it's supposed to be in sanctity.
Thank you, Vince. Members of the media, any other questions to pose to our presenters today?
If nobody else.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question from Mr. Ramjitan. Sir, you were talking, and this is on your press statement, right? You were talking about the petroleum bill and going to Parliament and trying to get a bill instituted. But given the history or the record of Parliament, where, as my Paul once said, you can have your say, the government will have its way. Are you serious about still trying to go that way to get the petroleum bill passed?
There is no other way that we at this stage can conceive as to getting it done. You have to, as an opposition, press, bring to the members of the public as to what you have been demanding, what is right, and what is the correct thing to do. The PPP, as we all know, in 2017 had indicated their big support for a petroleum commission bill because they saw in the commission what is called the depoliticization of the oil sector. It's insulation from the politicians. And all of them who had said those things, including Bharat Jagdev, Nandalal, all the major leaders of the then, they then retracted, just like they retracted from the renegotiation. And that's why this kind of nasty hypocrisy that is forthcoming from the Bharats and the rest of them in the PPP must be thrown onto the public. The public's memory is very short. And we have to inform the public what they were saying. And in the last sitting of Parliament, we did indicate all of that, what they said. So it is important to press. At least that's how I learned my politics. And although they might have their way, they must not deny us from having our say.
Thank you, Kamal. Another question from Davina. Can Mr. Patterson please say if he received a response to the letter he sent to the PPC?
Yes, Davina. As it was started just before I came to this meeting, I received an acknowledgement, the first PPC, that they were given to me. It was like my 10th complaint. There was a official letter of acknowledgement having having received my complaint on the conversation, and I was informed just before this meeting that my complaint was on the agenda of today's meeting, and that they will be writing in the draft for a copy of all tenders, the evaluation report, criteria used, and all other documentation so that they can examine it, which is an encouraging development. What I have not heard of what I'm raising here, but if they've asked them to put a hold on the award. But that is very important, but we can end up with a scenario almost similar to this, because we might to say that something was not done properly, but because it's gone so far along the process, and money is being paid and those things like that, there's nothing much they can do. So I would hope that they would also indicate them that they should hold it, but it's awarded against until they have finished determining it. Because we can end up just like we have with this the audit. Whoever's going to go on the wall, they can find it. They may or may not find it, or they can or somebody else with the fall. So the person this time to fully could still benefit from a quality award because no hold has been placed on it. So that's what I'm about.
Thank you. So finally, any further questions as we close off our press conference for today? And having not seen any.
Yeah, please.
Go ahead, Alan. You're just right now.
David, what's the last word you got on the new Demerara Harbor Bridge? That bridge should have been over halfway by now.
No, I do not have. Yeah, more than that. Remember how this contract was signed in May 2022. Remember so much, HL and everybody, it was a 2-year contract, contractor will be fined $25,000 a day for any delay. And of course, and then everybody started jumping and dancing, but it's the usual office. Absolutely nothing has been done. We have told you, and I've said it there in everybody's different, that everyone's glad for it. They have not even concluded, and I know this personally, they have not even concluded relocation of residents in part. They have not even concluded the later mobilization of equipment. Right now, they're trying to clear the area, not the stuff from the yard. They're trying to clear an area so that they can start bringing in. So I would probably say that they're probably 2 or 3% along the way. And we have less than 10 months now because it's May 2024. And I would want it to be excuses by the government. Ukraine, COVID, the opposition, weather, extreme weather, climate change.
Well, you know,
Yes.
David, you forget the spirit. You forget the spirit.
Yes, the honorable will sit down and say to you that it is an unnatural occurrence along that area. Right? But you will hear that they'll be shot. So you listen out for it, Adam, and think it will be that. I don't know if I'm totally extinction. But those are the standard things. They'll come, they'll say something, they'll come in over detail here. Labor shortages.
Or certain junior officers, we call Bobby, whatever. Some other Bobbies are at fault.
And they're all predictable, you know what I mean? And I've said it before, the very last press conference they had, that how many projects that they started, not one. They must be intelligent, so they're not one. You know, they're brilliant of having movement, ceremony, dancing, music, food, especially everybody at the mall, you know what I mean? They were being run up, getting all the flowers, having all these models. And in next year, and then they get a favorite advertising person, you know what I mean? The little big billboard coming soon, precious, coming soon. And that is the whole mantra of pie in the sky. Yeah, pie in the sky. You know, nothing. We do run to the list of, and I keep it that, you know, Bamia school.
You run down GPL, David. You run down GPL too.
Nothing has been completed as they said it will be.
Not even the Rosal factory.
Yeah, Rosal. I mean, so I don't have to answer that real question for you. You just need to answer the record. But I think I would draw the excuse to here in May 2022 next year.
Thank you. Guys, that's here. Hand up from Jamal. So, Jamal, quickly, I know you haven't answered anything today. You've been quiet. Go ahead and do the question before we close off.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm with File Now. Hi, Mr. Patterson. Wanted to ask you about your thoughts on the offshore auction, specifically whether you thought the level of interest that was shown in the number of bids and the number of blocks being bidded on, whether you thought it was a successful auction, and whether you think the manner in which the auction has been managed impacted the interest shown in the auction.
Of course, overarching comment, underwhelming. That underwhelming for sure, I think that will be now. If you look at the major players who are back to expressed, and I'm telling you based on the hype they had, I can tell you while we were in government in 2023, the major oil companies that were expressed interest directly to us, that they were interested in the block. I think and those Chevrons and those were they made it like if in the 2020 they were interested. regulations for those same laws. Fast forward 3 years, none of those other governments have done seismic surveys, made them disinterested. Simply disinterested in the manner in which we're going about it. It seems very partisan. It seems lacks transparency. They were before to have some stable petroleum commission. They would like to report some sort of stability. But this is a lot of money force would have to be invested in. And it's great uncertainty on how the government is operating. And there's great inequality for them. I mean, we have at the moment one and maybe short basis here to supply you imagine the disadvantage in Chevron, Tolo will face trying to use these short bases to do their surveys and export services, things like that. No, and obviously because they haven't found anything, because the department is capital intensive. When they look at the whole landscape, I think they're bored with that. Even though it doesn't be no longer for I think if we level the playing field, if there were more clear direction overall developmental plan, overall gas, oil and gas plan, and everyone, I would get a certainty of where we're going for the next 10, 15 years, and you re-advertise, right? So the level will be, I'm sure you get more better. Brazil and all of the introduction considering their neighbors, so that's my response.
If I could follow that up, what makes you think at this time there isn't a level playing field with respect to how the sector is being run?
So there isn't. They're asking companies to come under new fiscal regime and new sharing regime. But you're not asking the existing person who are benefited to come under that regime. I just told you, structure-wise, the entire structure landscape is geared to one of the operating now. They're just simply not enough. Like CGX, who are here, who would have they've been before reform made stuff that haven't had a development before the production sharing, because it's claimed that they're trying to give them claim, the conditions that are not stable that they get an operator. So why I feel like why we know, right? What we know. And then they've been complaining about that, but of course no one complains publicly and we stay so practice because it's very expensive to the environment. So we know these things, and persons are looking at it, they're hoping that the Petroleum Commission or some other buffer between them and the very the policy makers that are in place, then they would be far more comfortable dealing with
the fact that they can't bring the Petroleum Commission into place yet is definitely also. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our presenters, Dr. Vistara, Cameron Rambutan, David Hanson, Ricky Ramsoof, and myself. We all wish you a safe and productive weekend, and we will see you next week. And thanks especially to the media for joining us today. Thank you.
All right, Adam.
Thank you.